Chapter 6 Big Bone Noodle Soup is so delicious. Xiaolan, how do you know how to sell things? Lu Fan held the money, also feeling her daughter was so clever. Xiaolan righteously retorted, does this need to be taught? The onlookers' faces fell. If this didn't need teaching, then they had lived their decades in vain. Not long after, the auntie who had bought duck eggs came rushing over with some people. It's her, she hasn't run away. Lu Fan's face turned pale, thinking something was wrong with the duck eggs. The auntie led her companions to surround Xiaolan. Are the duck eggs still the same price as before? Xiaolan nodded, of course, the more you buy the cheaper it is. The auntie's companions all chimed in. They wanted Xiaolan to go even cheaper. Then they said wild duck eggs weren't as tasty as chicken eggs. They nitpicked the sizes. Xiaolan just smiled. Only a buyer of goods would complain. She just let them vent and it was fine. Sure enough, seeing Xiaolan unmoved, always meeting people with a smile, the 3 people the auntie brought still divided up the remaining wild duck eggs. 84 eggs sold to 4 people, all 21 each. Xiaolan had calculated for this, wanting to capture the customer's psychology of wanting a bargain. Of course, she omitted those 1 Mao coins from the 3 people. Those who had picked faults before were now happily paying up. What Xiaolan miscalculated was that her few wild ducklings didn't sell well. City dwellers' homes were small without extra grain to feed ducks. Her wild duck chicks couldn't be sold. 84 wild duck eggs sold for 9.2 yuan. Xiaolan gave Lu Fan the money, but Lu Fan let Xiaolan keep it herself. Xiaolan wanted to walk around the city to look for money-making opportunities. Someone selling sweet potatoes came over. Would you exchange the ducklings for sweet potatoes? He was attracted by Xiaolan's wild duck egg selling business. City people had no place to raise them, but he did. Xiaolan really didn't want to eat sweet potatoes. Eating too much made you bloated. But Lu Fan was willing to exchange. Sweet potatoes had high yields. It was currently harvest time. A gene of sweet potatoes might not even exchange for a single egg. Eggs were precious in 1983. Xiaolan thought for a bit. She asked the man for a flat 20 gene and she would give him all 8 ducklings. The man was unhappy. 1 gene exchanges 1 duckling. It's a big loss if they grow up and fly away. Untamed wild ducks would of course fly away. Xiaolan sincerely advised the fellow, cut their wing feathers and where can they fly? If you think 20 gene of sweet potatoes is too much, I'll take them back and raise them myself. Sweet potatoes really couldn't be sold for much. Ducks could be fed vegetable leaves, grass, and earthworms. Other than being a hassle, it didn't require grain. 8 adult ducks could lay 2 eggs. At least 2 Mao a day. 3 yuan a month, so 36 yuan a year. Xiaolan calculated it out for him. The fellow didn't haggle and really used 20 gene of sweet potatoes to exchange for the ducklings. Mother and daughter put the sweet potatoes into a reed basket and wandered the county town. Lu Fan had never known money could be earned so easily. The money from selling duck eggs plus 20 gene of sweet potatoes was at least 10 yuan. Rural folk scraped a living in the fields. They couldn't earn 200 yuan in a year. Part of that money had to be spent on seeds and fertilizer. The amount that could be saved was pitifully little. That money was for sending kids to school and praying no big illnesses in the family. 10 yuan a day, so 300 yuan a month? How much could they earn in a year? Lu Fen couldn't calculate it at all. Unfortunately, wild duck eggs couldn't be picked every day. Lu Fen was still a bit reluctant about the ducklings. I could also raise them. Clip their wings and let them lay eggs. It's long term. Xiaolan was not impatient. She knew Lu Fen was truly an ignorant rural woman, also living in the closed-off messages and concepts of the 1980s. People were honest, obedient, and enduring. She would need to slowly change Lu Fen's concepts after bringing her out of the lousy day village. Ducklings aren't necessarily easy to raise. It's too long a wait. Of course, it's better to exchange them for the currently scarce food. Who knows how many days until they lay again? It's impossible for them to lay eggs every day of the year. Xiaolan explained patiently. Lu Fen understood. The two walked a circle around the county town. At the state-run supply and marketing co-op, they bought some daily necessities like salt, candles, and matches. Lu Fen winced as she spent money. But they had nothing at home. The Xiao family didn't even let them take quilts when they left. Lu Fen felt distressed over money, but her courage grew. I'll go back and get your clothes. It wasn't cold in summer, but they get smelly without changing clothes and bathing. Xiaolan had wanted to buy some refined grains at the grain shop. When asked for food tickets, she couldn't take them out, so she could only buy the higher-priced grains. She thought about the unlocked rundown shack, unable to hold anything. So Xiaolan bought an iron lock but didn't buy grain. In 1983, some areas were gradually canceling various tickets. Purchases were not as strict, requiring tickets as before. At least in Qing'an County, some daily necessities didn't require tickets. Of course, grain and meat tickets still existed, as well as industrial coupons for buying appliances. Xiaolan knew that the faster society changed, the more opportunities there were within. She knew times when you could only buy food with tickets would completely pass. She would avoid earning money from this. Reselling grain tickets was simply suicidal. Information asymmetry everywhere were opportunities. Society was changing too fast, and many people were still confused. She didn't need to seize every opportunity, just grasp one or two. Then she could make a meteoric rise in the 1980s. Xiaolan, shall we go back? Lu Fen wasn't used to so many people. After walking the county town so long, she felt uncomfortable. City folks weren't necessarily dressed much nicer. Their clothes were clean, while she and Xiaolan had patched clothes, clearly looking like country bumpkins at a glance. As someone who cared about face, Xiaolan originally had some unpatched clothes. But she had hit her head. Her cousin Han Yan from the third house ransacked her nice clothes from the room. At that time, Lu Fen had no mind to care about such things. She still hoped old lady Xia would show mercy and agree to send her daughter to the hospital. Lu Fen wanted to go back. Xiaolan's stomach rumbled. Faced with still having to walk 2 hours, she felt hopeless. Let's eat a bowl of noodles before leaving. The roadside stand didn't require tickets. A bowl of bone soup noodles was only 3 mao. The soup was a milky white. The noodles were snowy white. Lu Fen couldn't remember the last time she ate such refined grains. Auntie, cook 2 bowls of noodles for us. Xiaolan pulled Lu Fen to sit on the small stool. The bone soup aroma kept drilling into her nose. Lu Fen waved her hand, Just one bowl, just one bowl. How could she bear to spend 3 mao on a bowl of noodles? Xiaolan didn't care and directly gave the noodle stand auntie 6 mao. As the auntie cooked the noodles, she praised, "What a filial daughter! In the future you will also enjoy fortune and blessings." Lu Fen's dark yellow face revealed a smile. But thinking of Xiaolan's ruined reputation across the villages, the aromatic bone soup noodles were served, but Lu Fen had no appetite. Thump 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 dash. A large vehicle parked at the roadside. The passenger door opened and a youngster wearing military boots jumped down, holding 2 large lunchboxes. He was attracted by the aroma of the bone soup. Looking up, his eyes stuck on Xiaolan. Chapter 7, Not Looking Proper? Gulp. The Adam's apple of the youngster shook as he swallowed saliva. Was it because the noodles smelled too good? Or was it because Xiaolan was too beautiful? In this broken county town, there was such a beauty. Her skin was so fair it hurt the eyes. Her eyes were filled with an attractive light. Her pointed chin. Her proper blue top was stretched taut by her full bosom, instantly becoming indecent. The white gauze around her forehead revealed faint traces of blood, making people love her even more. Watching her eat noodles with small bites, it made people wish they could become the noodles in her bowl. In fact, today all along the road in the county town, wherever they went there were such admiring looks. Lu Fen thought people were looking because mother and daughter wore tattered clothes. In fact, all the looks were at Xiaolan. The noodle stand auntie heavily knocked the bowl, finally pulling the youngster's spirit back. "Do you want noodles?" The youngster was a bit embarrassed. He handed the auntie his large lunchbox. As you can see, the noodle aroma drew me from afar. "I want 2 bowls to take away in the lunchbox." His Beijing accent meant he wasn't a local. Xiaolan's brows furrowed. Today some people did secretly size her up, but none were as direct and bold as this outsider. She still wasn't used to her current looks. She had lived a few decades with an unattractive face. It was easy to temporarily forget how good-looking she currently was. Just buying a lock wasn't safe enough. After eating the noodles, she would go buy scissors. The bone soup bubbled in the small stove. The hand-pulled noodles were thin. The 2 bowls the outsider wanted were quickly cooked. He reluctantly left after paying, looking back every 3 steps. Lu Fen also felt something was off, and ate her noodles faster. The 3 mao noodles were a large sea bowl portion. Lu Fen drank the soup without leaving a drop. With empty stomachs now, people could eat with abandon. A woman could easily eat a gene of steamed buns in one meal. Xiaolan pulled Lu Fen to go buy a knife. She had wanted to buy a vegetable knife earlier. The stainless steel vegetable knife looked to be good quality, also Shanghai made. It cost 5 yuan. Madame Xia had turned away back then. It was good merchandise, but she was unwilling to spend the cash. Now that she thought about it, buying scissors was also fine. The outsider youngster reluctantly returned to the vehicle holding the 2 lunchboxes of noodles, spilling some of the soup. In the driver's seat sat a male driver with a crew cut. His angular face was handsome no matter the era's aesthetics. "Look at you!" His noodle-buying companion was unhappy. "Brother Cheng, I've never seen such a beautiful woman. If you saw her, I guarantee you wouldn't be able to walk." In Beijing City there were so many young ladies and daughters-in-law. He had never seen one better looking than the one just now. It wasn't the rigidly heroic looks. She was tender and delicate, appearing not very proper. The looks most enticing to men. We already agreed earlier I would only bring you on this one trip. You can only learn as much of the trade routes as possible. If you can't learn it, go nest wherever you want. Or you can just stay in this county town to chase girls. Chasing girls was the Beijing term for picking up girls. Brother Cheng was somewhat sinister with a bad temper. The noodle buyer didn't dare to talk back. After slurping up the noodles, they drove the vehicle away. 2 legs couldn't go as fast as 4 wheels. After going 2 streets, they happened to meet the mother and daughter Xia again. Brother Cheng, look! The passenger youngster made a fuss. Brother Cheng glanced over and saw a figure. The oversized blue-patched clothes especially accentuated the girl's delicate figure. Her exposed skin behind the ears was unbelievably fair. Forget about looking good or not. Weren't all women a pair of eyes and a mouth? Boring. The youngster regretted endlessly. Oh well, you have no affinity with her. Brother Cheng didn't take it to heart. The vehicle quickly left Qing'an County. Still 2 days to Shanghai City. Long-distance driving was tiring, also fearing cargo robbery on the roads. Where was there time to appreciate beautiful girls? The frivolous outsider reminded Xiaolan. She went to buy a large pair of scissors. Without pots or money to buy any, she simply bought another porcelain vat to pair up. These items could handle cooking, storing things, drinking water, etc. Nothing more convenient. Added 2 pairs of chopsticks. Of the original 9.2 yuan, she only had 6 yuan left. Xiaolan didn't dare spend any more. Wild duck eggs weren't that easy to find. Day Village's duck nests had been ransacked. If she still wanted to rely on selling duck eggs to earn money, she'd have to go to other villages. With just mother and daughter picking, they could only earn meager pocket change. Xiaolan wanted to run an egg reselling business. With around 20 yuan capital on hand, she wouldn't have to go flip through reed marshes again. From Day Village to the county seat was just 2 hours. But there were villages even further than Day. Walking 3 hours to town to sell 10 eggs, selling for 1.5 yuan each. Round trip took 6 hours. If she bought at 0.12 yuan each, usually people were willing to walk 6 hours to earn that extra 3 mao. In a few days it would be time to thresh the grain. Even half-grown children would be helping in the fields. Who would have time to come sell eggs in town? During the 2 weeks of the farming busy season, if the family eggs weren't sold, they'd rot in the hot weather. Xiaolan intended to seize this special period to profit from the price difference. Earning just 2 to 3 mao per egg didn't seem like much. 100 eggs a day would be 2 to 3 yuan. Minus rainy days when going to town was difficult, she could earn at least 70 yuan a month. Didn't seem like much. In her previous life, Xiaolan had an elderly customer. She told Xiaolan that in the 1980s when she worked at the county guest house, her monthly salary was 36 yuan. In 1983, the wealthy were individuals who started businesses early on. But these people concealed it deeply. Others couldn't tell how much savings they had. Those who could openly earn high salaries weren't civil servants or public institution employees. The inverted brain and brawn phenomenon was severe. Intellectual salaries weren't as high as workers, especially in heavy industry sectors like oil and mining. Workers earning 100 to 200 yuan a month weren't few. During the same period, teachers at key high schools also only earned a few dozen yuan a month. The lowest income were of course the peasants. If Xiaolan could earn 70 yuan a month, the Xiao family would probably be willing to invite her back as a Buddhist idol to worship if they knew. With neither capital nor connections, Xiaolan knew taking the first step to building wealth would be very difficult. She could only slowly work on it. Carrying things, the two walked another 2 hours before returning to Day Village. First putting everything back in the rundown shack, she felt much safer having an iron lock. Returning the flashlight to old Wang at the cattle shed, Xiaolan felt an itch at her forehead wound area. Lu Fen told her to go to the health center to change the dressing. Xiaolan also placed high importance on this issue. Running around with sweaty clothes, she also feared infection of the wound. Changing medicine wasn't expensive, mainly to disinfect the wound. The doctor still upheld some medical ethics unlike the gossipy women. He carefully looked at Xiaolan's wound. Don't worry. The recovery is quite good. It doesn't look like it will scar. Xiaolan relaxed upon hearing this. Thank you for going through the trouble. After mother and daughter left the health center, Lu Fen pulled on Xiaolan's sleeve. Isn't that your uncle? The Xiao family house was at the village entrance. A short man was arguing with old Mrs. Xia. In any case, you Xiaos are sinister with rotten lungs. You made my sister and niece die. If you don't hand over the people, I'll smash the Xia house to smithereens. Chapter 8, Uncle has arrived. That figure, that face, it was definitely Lu Fen's elder brother Lu Cheng. In Xiaolan's memory, her uncle Lu Cheng doted on her more than her dad Xia Dejun. With both women being bullied by the Xia family, finally someone came to stand up for mother and daughter Xia. Influenced by the original owner's remaining feelings, Xiaolan's eyes instantly turned wet. Uncle, I'm here. Lu Cheng grabbed old Mrs. Xia, the veins in his neck sticking high up. He was about to rush in and smash up the Xia house. Hearing a tender soft voice, he turned to look. It was his pitiful niece. He tossed old Mrs. Xia aside and quickly stepped forward. Xiaolan, where did you and your mom go? Lu Cheng was a bricklayer. During slack seasons he helped build houses for people. Just yesterday he returned from Lin County and first heard of Xiaolan's matter. Today he hurried to Day Village. He even bought white sugar and instant noodles at the supply and marketing co-op, wanting to give the mother and daughter face. The Xiao family took the gifts. Only then did they tell Lu Cheng that Xiaolan and her mother had moved to the dilapidated house by the river beach. Lu Cheng went to the old house to look for them but of course didn't find anyone. Lu Cheng became suspicious that the Xia family had made the people disappear. He loafed around at the Xia house for half a day, making old Mrs. Xia hand over the mother and daughter. Rural areas usually ate 2 meals a day. One meal around 9 to 10 a.m., one meal around 3 to 4 p.m. The Xia family was still waiting to eat the afternoon meal. Old Mrs. Xia wanted Lu Cheng to leave. The two argued from inside the house to outside, resulting in the previous scene. After hearing the story, Xiaolan quickly placated her uncle. We're currently living in the rundown house by the river beach. In our hasty departure, my grandma only gave us 20 jin of sweet potatoes. No pots, bowls, or quilts. I didn't think to bring clothing or bedding. I was just saying we'd come back for our things, then I ran into Uncle. Seeing his niece alive and well before him, the stone lifting from Lu Chang's heart finally fell back down halfway. The gauze strip around Xiaolan's head had been switched to a small square patch over the wound. She didn't look as scary either. Lu Chang became angry again. Xia Dejun lets the whole family bully you, mother and daughter? What, moving to a rundown house to live? That building was dilapidated, even dogs looked down on it. How could people live there? Xiaolan and her mother were clearly kicked out. Old Mrs. Xiao's face was extremely ugly. She had seen the mother and daughter appear and thought they stayed a night in the old house, found it unbearable, and came home to beg forgiveness. She imagined even if Lu Fen kneeled on the ground pleading, she still wouldn't agree to it. She didn't expect Xiaolan to say she came back for things. Kicked out already, what else could there be? But Lu Chang was here now. Lu Chang was different from the cowardly Lu Fen. If he said smash the Xia house, then he really dared to smash it. Old Mrs. Xiao's expression was distorted. Brother-in-law, you heard it. It was they themselves who abandoned a good house and refused to live there. Search your conscience and say, which daughter-in-law throws aside her mother-in-law? I'm just a useless old lady who can't control anyone. Wait until Dejun returns and let him deal with it himself. The onlookers chimed in, helping old Mrs. Xia. Lu Fen trembled all over, shrinking into herself. Lu Chang felt it was useless to rely on his younger sister. It was better to rely on his niece. Xiaolan seemed to have matured after the incident and spoke more logically. Crowding here watching the fun, unaware of the seriousness, is that it? This is just between our two families. Everyone clear the way, go about your business. Lu Chang shooed away the gossiping women. Xiaolan liked Lu Chang's way of handling matters. Also influenced by the original owner's remaining feelings, she felt quite close with Uncle Lu Chang. Uncle, when my dad gets back he may beat me to death. What do we do? Lu Chang's eyes widened. He dare. Not even able to protect his wife and children, Lu Chang looked down on Xia Dejun a lot. But Lu Fen had always staunchly defended the Xia family. Lu Chang felt it was casting pearls before swine. Speaking of this matter, Lu Chang had also heard the rumors. Xia Dejun didn't know even when in the neighboring village. The Xiao brothers, each one's arm was as thick as a woman's thigh. If they stood together to defend Xiaolan, who would still dare gossip? Allowing rumors to spread across the villages, ruining Xiaolan's reputation. A perfectly good young lady driven to smash her head on a pillar from anger? Thinking this way, staying at the Xia house truly was seeking death. Lu Chang squeezed aside old Mrs. Xia, blocking the doorway. Go pack up your clothes. I'm taking charge today. Don't go live in that rundown place. Come home with me. Moving to the Xia family's old house and returning to her maternal home were two different things. Lu Fen's steps were soft and weak. But Xiaolan was completely cheered up. She didn't plan on living with Uncle long-term either. But she could run her business there. The Day village people only had ghosts if they were willing to sell eggs to Xiaolan. Lu Fen didn't dare move. Lu Chang told Xiaolan to go pack things. Aunt Three's voice was shrill. Sister-in-law Xia, can't you leave some leeway in handling matters? You insist on tearing apart their family of three? Can you provide for mother and daughter their whole lives? A maternal family person could only advise reconciling, not separating. Xiaolan could get lost since she was a spoiled miss. But Lu Fen was the old ox needed by the family. Just one day without her and Aunt Three had to do Lu Fen's chores. She felt it hard to endure. Lu Fen trembled even more. She also knew Lu Chang was serious this time. Her mind was chaotic. One moment she felt that following her elder brother meant her family would break up. The next moment she thought even uncle had come to stand up for Xiaolan, but her own dad Xia Dajun still hadn't returned. Really no resentment? There was resentment. Just too cowardly for too long, she didn't dare speak her resentment. Xiaolan coldly laughed twice. Auntie, my uncle can't provide for me my whole life. Can you? Have your Hong Yan return my clothes. I'm taking them when I leave. Aunt Three instantly shut up. The Xiao family had no man stand up for them. The whole family combined was no match for Lu Cheng's ferocity. Xiaolan strode into her own room. The pair of shoes under the bed weren't hers. After just one night, Hong Yan couldn't wait to move in. The wooden box on the bed held all of Xiaolan's property. The big iron lock guarded it. The key hung around Xiaolan's neck. She didn't expect to still have a chance to take it away. Xiaolan struggled to carry out the box. Lu Fen didn't dare go pack her own things. Old Mrs. Xiao's long-term oppression had seeped into her bones. Lu Cheng didn't have the Xia surname. If he ransacked the room, it would change the nature of things. But Xiaolan dared. Letting old Mrs. Xiao's face turn black as the bottom of a pot, she ran to pack Lu Fen's clothes. Lu Fen had very few clothes to begin with. All tattered and patched, making Lu Cheng frown straight. Uncle, we still have some food provisions in the old house. Lu Cheng waved his big hand. Take it all. I rode my bicycle here today. Of course. A brand new large 28-bar bicycle leaned against the wall. Just such a bicycle cost at least 200 yuan. Lu Cheng was a master bricklayer. Making 2 yuan a day, Xiaolan thought, her uncle must have gotten rich. Chapter 9, I've turned over a new leaf. No wonder the Xia family members' attitudes today were so gentle, and they kept their tempers in check. A brand new 28-inch bicycle had left the Xia family members astonished. The Xia family had bullied Lu Fen, and regardless of what happened to Xia Xiaolan, it was because there was no one to stand up for them. Lu Yong had previously managed but struggled financially himself and couldn't say tough words. He was now willing to support Xia Xiaolan and her mother, and he had the confidence to do so. With these stubborn women in the Xia family, he had to take a few steps back. Xiao Lao Tai remained silent, knowing that Xia Dajun would return in a few days. When Xia Dajun returned, Lu Fen would beg for mercy on her own, and Xia Xiaolan, the troublemaker and disgrace to the family, would be free to leave. If Lu Fen also left, a woman who couldn't bear a son, it would be an excellent opportunity for Xia Dajun to find a new wife. The Xiao family wasn't wealthy, but they had a golden phoenix in Xia Xiaolan. Who wouldn't want to marry Xia Dajun? Xiao Lao Tai understood this, and she didn't care about Xia Xiaolan taking away her shabby clothes. As she watched the three of them leave, she muttered, "Once you leave the Xia family's door, it'll be hard to come back." Only when the formidable killer, Lu Yong, left did the others dare to come out. "Mom, are you really letting them go like this?" The third daughter-in-law wondered whether they should call Lu Fen back to work. Xiao Lao Tai was delighted to share her thoughts, and the third daughter-in-law, Wang Jingui, naturally flattered her. We should find a capable new second daughter-in-law. The eldest daughter-in-law, Zhang Cui, wasn't happy. Her daughter's university admission was entirely her own doing, but she still had to manage everyone in the Xia family, even deciding who Xia Dajun would marry. Zhang Cui had a low presence in the Xia family, but she was undoubtedly the smartest among the three sisters-in-law. Lu Fun was hardworking but not likable, and Wang Jingui was quick to anger but couldn't make crucial decisions. Zhang Cui changed the subject with just a few words. I wonder if Siyu has arrived at school. He hasn't sent a telegram back. Telegrams are expensive. Is it because Siyu is trying to save money, or are we really that poor? Otherwise, wouldn't we be able to send him more money for school? Xiao Lao Tai's furrowed brow could catch flies. Wang Jingui secretly sneered, absorbing all of the Xia family's assets, and she still couldn't afford to send a telegram? Xiao Lao Tai wondered what hardships Xia Xiu might be facing in the capital city while studying, and it didn't sit right with her. She quickly made another decision. The three of them are working on repairing the river embankment. The money they earn should be sent to Xiu right away. Zhang Cui tried to decline, but Xiao Lao Tai insisted, and she reluctantly accepted her mother-in-law's goodwill on behalf of her daughter. It was truly a case of the same last name but different fates. Xia Xiaolan had been pushed to her limit, and the Xia family had done nothing. Xia Xiaolan would most likely hear these words if she were present, and it would undoubtedly lead to a heated argument. The Xia family members didn't care about Xia Xiaolan, but there was someone who did. At least, Lu Yong was deeply concerned. How can anyone live in this place? Xiaolan, you should have come to find your uncle with your mom last night. The Xia family was too ruthless. It was only because they had left Xia Xiaolan with no choice. She had never endured hardship before. How could she move to this old, run-down house near the river? Lu Yong gritted his teeth in disgust for the Xia family. Hurry up and pack your things, come with me. Lu Fin hesitated. What if Dajuan returns? Lu Yong was exasperated. You're always defending Xia Dajuan. I don't mind, he's your man. But besides being your man, has he fulfilled his duties as a father? Even I've heard about Xiaolan's situation. Is Xia Dajuan deaf and blind? Lu Yong was losing his patience. Xia Xiaolan shook her head at her uncle, signaling him not to say more. Lu Fin had been conditioned by years of thinking this way, and moving out with Xia Xiaolan was already a significant step for her. Uncle, I want to start a small business. What do you think? While packing, Xia Xiaolan shared her plan to sell eggs with Lu Yong. She genuinely believed her uncle was a rare understanding person, straightforward in his words and actions, not the ignorant and conservative type. After listening, Lu Yong didn't immediately offer his opinion. He pulled out a pack of Dama cigarettes from his pocket and lit one. After smoking half of it, he finally said, Niece, to be honest, it's good that you want to make money, and it shows you're maturing. But this business isn't suitable. Xia Xiaolan didn't interrupt her uncle. She had reached a high managerial position in her past life not just due to her determination but also because she never underestimated people in the current era, which also had its share of intelligent individuals. The 1980s might be backward, but there were undoubtedly intelligent people in this era. If Xia Xiaolan treated everyone as fools, she would fall flat sooner or later. I'm listening. Seeing that Xia Xiaolan had grown more patient, Lu Yong smiled. Niece, if I'm wrong, don't get upset. I'm just offering a suggestion. This business is not a good fit. Farmers could go to the city to sell a few eggs using a basket. But transporting more than 100 eggs at once was troublesome, both in terms of collection and delivery. Eggs were fragile and couldn't be stored for long. What if the eggs she brought to the city didn't sell immediately? Moreover, Xia Xiaolan had a somewhat striking appearance. Lu Yong didn't want her to go to various places to collect eggs. This business required early mornings and late nights and was more suitable for men, not a young woman like Xia Xiaolan, especially one as beautiful as her. Xia Xiaolan had already considered these factors. Beyond her initial excitement, she realized that her attractive face might attract trouble. Pingmen has many beauties, and they're kept hidden away by their high-status families. They only come out with grandeur and security. I don't have the means for that right now. I can only carry scissors for self-defense. Lu Yong had spoken the harsh truth, and Xia Xiaolan smiled wryly. I have limited capital. I can only rely on this egg business to support my mother and me. I brought her out of the Xia family to give her a better life. Other people's daughters are golden phoenixes, the daughter she gave birth to is a debt collector. I will make sure she lives a good life sooner or later. Uncle, I was so foolish before, and I hurt all of you. A grown man like Lu Yong felt his nose tingling. Lu Fen would definitely not be able to handle this. Crying while explaining, Lu Fen also tried to defend herself. Who said you're a debt collector? How mom is doing isn't important, what's important is that you live well. The three close relatives were on the verge of tears. Xia Xiaolan took this opportunity to dissect her own inner thoughts, letting her loved ones know that she wanted to turn over a new leaf and start fresh. Lu Yong saw that his niece's determination was sincere and didn't try to stop her any longer. If you want to do this business, you'll need at least several dozen yuan as capital. How much are you short of? I'll make up the difference for you. How much was Xia Xiaolan short? She only had 6 yuan in her pocket. Xia General revealed an unusual moment of embarrassment. Chapter 10, Xia Dajuan returns and runs into them. Lu Yong didn't make fun of her. Who would willingly leave home with nothing, unless they were forced to do so? Staying in the Xia family could keep her alive even under humiliation and hardship, but a family isn't just about having a roof over your head, it's about having mutual love and harmony among family members. Lu Yong thought that Xia Xiaolan was courageous. They say a nephew resembles their uncle, and he had always been fond of Xia Xiaolan. Now he saw her in an even more positive light. He reached into his pocket and took out several large 50 yuan bills, saying, "Take this 50 yuan for now. Let's discuss how you'll run this business, and if you need more money, I'll give you some later." At that time, a 10 yuan note was the largest denomination of paper currency, known as the Big Unity by the common people. Lu Fen was startled. "Big brother, where did you get this money?" First, a new bicycle, and now he was handing Xia Xiaolan several tens of yuan. What condition was the Lu family in? Lu Fen couldn't possibly be unaware. Their situation was dire, and Lu Yong, who had once been irresponsible, had started learning the trade of a bricklayer in recent years. He had spent a year as an apprentice and 2 years as a skilled worker. With this skill, their family's life would improve somewhat, but bricklayers didn't have work every day, and Lu Yong's income was unstable. Lu Yong knew that his sister was a bit scatterbrained and didn't explain further. He just told Xia Xiaolan to accept the money. "Thank you, uncle. I consider this money a loan from you," Xia Xiaolan said without being overly stubborn. She was indeed penniless at the moment. With this initial capital of 50 yuan, she could make the most of the busy farming season to earn money and then repay her uncle double. It was pointless to insist that Lu Yong not help. Otherwise, her mother would suffer. Lu Yong smiled warmly and had Xia Xiaolan help him tie their belongings to the back of the bicycle. Everything they had was in those bags, including sweet potatoes, clothes for each of them, and the daily necessities they had bought today. Before they even reached the village entrance, someone with a bowl in hand stopped Xia Xiaolan and said, "Your father's back, and Xia Dajuan wants to beat you." Enjoying their misfortune and harboring ill intentions, the people of Dehel village were truly unfriendly. It was as if Xia Xiaolan had desecrated someone's ancestral tomb. The Xia family's door was wide open, and a burly man walked out, saying, "Where are you going? Did you and your grandmother have a fight at home?" His voice was deep and resonant, his arm muscles were bulging, and he appeared to be nearly 6 feet tall. This was Xia Xiaolan's biological father, Xia Dajuan. It seemed that her height took after him. Xia Xiaolan was quite satisfied with her height, having grown to over 5 feet 6 inches in the 1980s. Lu Yong didn't give Xia Xiaolan a chance to speak. He picked up a bag of sweet potatoes and started throwing them at Xia Dajuan, cursing as he went, "You damn scoundrel. I said I'd settle the score with you someday, and now you've run into me. Who fought with whom? You, as a father, pretended not to know when your wife and daughter were being mistreated? You damn scumbag! Can you see the way your sister-in-law has been suffering for all these years? My sister married you, which is like being struck by bad luck for 8 generations." Lu Yong, though small in stature, was relentless. Xia Dajuan, with his arms protecting his head, made no attempt to retaliate. Of course, Xia Dajuan's intention was not to fight with Lu Yong. Xia Dajuan's brothers rushed out and managed to pull the two men apart. Xia Xiaolan's eldest and third uncles held Lu Yong firmly. Lu Yong was still struggling, kicking and punching. "Big brother, stop it. Let's talk it out. I'll say whatever I want. Scumbag, you're all flesh and no heart, and you've survived for decades, but you don't care about your own daughter. I'm here to make you feel the pain." Lu Yong's anger was palpable. Lu Fun was in a panic and tried to break up the fight but was held back by Xia Xiaolan. Xia Xiaolan watched Xia Dajuan from beginning to end, noticing that he never fought back. She had a bit of confidence in this man. If he had started fighting, she wouldn't know what to say. Men could have tempers, and there were all kinds of men in the world. Some were cowardly, some were wise and didn't resort to violence, while others were quick to anger and would throw a punch at the slightest provocation. The people of Zhuangcheng County were known for their hot temper, but there was a world of difference between fighting with someone outside and hitting their wives at home. Xia Xiaolan had the utmost contempt for men who engaged in domestic violence. Lu Yong had exhausted himself, panting heavily. Xia Dajuan's face was swollen, and he spat out a mouthful of blood-tinged saliva. He said, "I don't want to fight with you. I want to talk about Xiaolan. She shouldn't have fought with her grandmother, it made her grandmother sick." Xiao Laotai had raised her 3 sons as a widow, and Xia Dajuan was obedient to his mother, even if he wasn't particularly considerate of his wife. He followed her orders. Xia Xiaolan thought that if she were the original person, she would have been furious hearing those words. She had some affection for Lu Fun, and she felt close to Lu Yong. This was because the original person lacked family love, and these two treated her well. As for Xia Dajuan, she had no soft spot for him. Even if the original person owed the Xia family something, it had been repaid with her life. What more did they want? Initially, Xia Xiaolan had considered giving Xia Dajun a piece of her mind, but she decided not to waste her breath. Instead, she told Lu Yong, "Uncle, let's go." When Xia Dajun saw that she wasn't getting angry or arguing, the anger in his heart couldn't be contained. He shouted, "You little brat!" He went forward and grabbed Xia Xiaolan's arm, causing her to stagger. Xia Xiaolan turned around, her face expressionless, and said, "My grandmother said I bring shame to the Xia family by being alive. Someone like me should just die right away." I cracked my head, and my mother begged my grandmother to take me to the hospital. She even knelt down, and her head swelled from the kowtowing. It was only after we got a doctor to stop the bleeding. If you think I'm not respectful and filial enough, then should I give my life, which I miraculously held onto, back to the Xia family? After saying this, she pressed the scissors against her own neck. The sharp point had already pierced the skin. The determination hidden in her calm tone was chilling. She was really prepared to go through with it. Xia Dajun was frightened. He instinctively argued, "You're fine, we don't have the money to send you to the hospital. Why don't you learn to be sensible like Xiu?" As Xia Xiaolan looked at him with a mocking glint in her eyes, Xia Dajun's voice grew weaker. The reason there was no money in the house was that Xia Xiu, who was sensible, had taken all the family assets with him. Even though Xia Dajun habitually favored his niece, he felt that his mother had been in the wrong in this matter. A mix of guilt and other emotions overwhelmed him. Xia Dajun shouted loudly, "She's your grandmother. She scolded you a bit, and you should listen obediently. If you didn't engage in those embarrassing and disgraceful things, would your grandmother scold you?" Xia Xiaolan had no intention of taking her own life, but she really wanted to settle things with Xia Dajun once and for all. However, someone else acted faster than her. The petite Lufan pushed the burly Xia Dajun aside, her voice hoarse as she said, "I'll fight you, if you force Xiaolan." She was trembling with fear, but she had to protect her daughter. It was a mother's instinct.